Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing you insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide you with an actionable perspective on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Wow, Gyi Tsakalakis, it's so great to have you. I met you about like 5 years ago when you were presenting on an ABA panel, ABA Tech Show panel. Was very impressed, taking lots of notes, nerding out about marketing. And so I'm really glad to have you on. So you help law firms grow profitably with digital marketing, and can prove it. And you're a non-practicing lawyer, but you're familiar with unique considerations affecting marketing, a law practice, and you regularly speak on legal marketing topics, including at Leo Cloud Conference and Avos Conference and ABA Tech Show, and you were a co-chair not too long ago, and you contribute to local search engine ranking factors survey, and including with Moz, Search Engine Land, Forbes, and it says you're passionate about your family, coffee, and Michigan football. So hopefully we have time to talk about all of those things, but
I can't wait. Thanks for having me, Ruby. That was quite an intro. I think you got most of that there right, and grateful to be here and love talking marketing.
Yeah, and you've also been a guest in my law class on law practice management on marketing, and I tell the students, I'm like, listen to this guy. He really knows what he's talking about. This is a big deal.
Yes, well, thank you for having me in that too. And I will give you a kudos because people will say to me all the time, oh, they don't teach this stuff in law school. And I'm like, yes, they do. Go talk to Ruby. They're teaching it now in law school. So that's not true anymore.
I know times are a changing.
Great. Love it.
It's going to take a little while, but yeah. We're trying. So I'm the host, Ruby Powers, and we're talking about the ever evolving landscape of law practice management. And we're talking about our guests' superpowers, their perspectives on reaching success. And just really glad to have Gyi here today. So when I think about you, I think about marketing, and you talk about, like, you teach about Google My Business profile, like I think coming up at ABA Tech Show soon, LinkedIn, Google Ads, like everything. So I'll go ahead and get started with you said one of the biggest questions is, how do people hire lawyers? And I think as lawyers, a practicing lawyer, we sort of try to put together our marketing plan about how people find us. But I'm curious, like, what's the biggest difference between what lawyers think is how clients find them versus how the clients actually find them?
Well, and this is changing too. So I got to give lawyers some credit because they're getting better. But forever, the story went, you just do great work for clients. Your clients will tell other people, and that's how you'll get new business. So, word of mouth referrals. And lawyers aren't wrong. That's right. People, you do have to do a great job. You've got to provide remarkable service. People will talk about you. But there's a whole bunch of other things you can do to help, call it nudge or motivate or inspire happy clients to refer. And there's the other big thing that lawyers miss is that, and the Clio Legal Trends reports tease this out, Avos research, or Martindale now, their research tease this out, but only about half of people that are looking for a lawyer are going to do some kind of referral. Maybe they know somebody, or they know a professional, or they know a family member, or they know somebody that they can get a referral from. But a lot of people don't know a lawyer, and they don't know somebody who knows a lawyer, and they might not even be ready to hire a lawyer. They might be like contemplating divorce or contemplating these life legal issues. And so those people go out and do research on their own. And so I think those are the two biggest things I always tell lawyers is that, there's a whole bunch there. Yes, you should be, it's not either or. You should be delivering great service, nurturing those referral relationships, but you should also be putting yourself out there into the ether, so that people know who you are, who you help, how you help them, how you're uniquely qualified. Because a lot of people They don't know lawyers. And even if they do, some of these life legal issues, they don't want to go to their neighbor and ask them for a referral because they're embarrassed. They don't want people to know about what they're dealing with. And so those are, I think, two of the biggest misconceptions that I see with lawyers.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think another thing when I talk about marketing and I write about it and things like that, it just we weren't allowed to truly market until the 80s, which is like only 40-ish years ago. And so like I think we're still got some generational change and shifts and where we're like we weren't even able to sell practices until about like 30 40 or so years ago either. So it's like it might not seem like a big deal, but like all these other industries have been able to do it. Like they're just like leapfrog ahead of us. And so we have to make up for lost time.
Absolutely. And, and look, lawyers, they, when they're thinking about all this kind of stuff, there are ethical issues that are unique to
Yeah.
marketing a law practice, and there should be some. I always get away from trying to say fear because I say fear, and then everybody puts their head in the sand because they're just like it's too scary, and I don't want an ethics violation. You need to be mindful about how you do your marketing, but I don't know. I always tell people like the days of just you're playing with one hand tied behind your back if you don't market your practice. Even the great lawyer, like I see so many great lawyers who provide great service to clients that are struggling to get new business because they're quote unquote, they're the best kept secret for their clients. And like, that's not a great way to get new business.
No, I agree. And when I started my firm like 14 years ago, I was so jealous of all the firms that like just lived off of referrals. I was like, well, what do you do when you just start? Like you haven't been around enough. And then I realized like I needed to always be hustling for new business and not live on referrals. And I know a lot of attorneys like, no, it is what it is, but like they'll brag about how they don't market. And I'm like, well, you still should to your existing clients, your former clients, and you still like that's going to dry up one day,
Well,
or if that's a part of your plan, if that's purposely your plan, then all power to you. But if it's
right.
not,
And that's what I always say. Like there are plenty of lawyers who do. They do it, quote unquote, the old fashioned way, do great work. People talk about you, you get new business. That's fantastic. But you brought up the big issue with that is you're at the mercy of your referral partners, right? Sometimes they might have referrals, sometimes. So there's not a predictable client stream, there's not a predictable pipeline of new business coming in. You're at the whim of your referral partners. And again, there are plenty of, and that's the other thing I always say, and the other talking heads and legal marketing experts like myself out there that paint with these broad brushes. There are plenty of lawyers that have successful practices doing it just like that, just referral based, and that's
Mhm.
great. But if you aspire to grow, or you want to add more lawyers to your firm, you want to expand geographic areas, you want to expand practice areas. Again, I do the referral thing, provide great service to clients, but find ways to expand and grow and get a more consistent, potential clients contacting you.
Right. So we talked a lot already about some things lawyers need to know, but what else would you say are some like the most important thing lawyers need to know about marketing?
So two things. First is make sure that you've got your intake and your quote unquote client experience machine working first. So I can't tell you how many times lawyers will say, I spent all this money on Google ads, or I spent all this money on TV, or whatever it is that they spent this money on. And then you call the firm and it goes to voicemail, or you call the firm and no one's, it's just ringing. Or you call the firm and someone answers it less than pleasantly. If you're spending money on marketing, you've got to fix those systems first, because it's only going to get worse as the volume goes up. And what happens is that if you're providing poor experiences, people are going to talk about it. They're going to say, never answers the phone, doesn't answer my questions. They're going to post that on Google Business Profiles, negative reviews. They're going to post it on social media. We see this all the time. So that's number one, is fix that intake, that client experience system first. And then number two, the other big thing that always happens when we're talking about important things in marketing is you have to find ways to stand out. And so whether you want to call it unique selling proposition, or, the traction people call it 3 uniques, or you want to call it niche, or whatever it is you want to call it, you have to find something about you that truly makes you stand out. Because I'll just give you a quick example. So if someone says, I'm a divorce lawyer. Okay. Well, there's a million divorce lawyers. That doesn't help you stand out. Now, maybe you are, and again, I'm on the fly here, so you can critique this idea as I unfold it. But there's a big difference between divorce lawyer and then I'm a divorce lawyer that focuses on helping moms that are going to be facing single motherhood, something like that. Can you see the difference in those positions? That's something that's going to stand out a lot more from all the other divorce lawyers. Now, again, you got to find the place that you want to be in the market. Maybe that's too specific. It's too niche. There's not a big enough market, but standing out, that's what marketing is. And so the more that anytime I see a lawyer that's like copying somebody else, or copying a website, or copying something, or, they got generic images up, or they're using stock imagery in their social media profiles, I'm like, you're doing the opposite of marketing, because the whole point is that you've got to do something to stand out. So those are the things I always talk about.
And I don't know who told me about the book Story Brand, but I don't know. I bought it like not last fall, and because I was uh, thinking about the book I'm working on, Law Practice Management, my second book, and I'm also thinking about my class and my law firm and all that stuff. But I mean, the gist of it did make me think about how you word yourself. Like, don't just say I'm an immigration attorney, but be like, I help families, unify in the United States and reach the American dream, or I help companies meet their labor demand needs by, having foreign labor or being able to invest in the United States, or something like how you help people do what you do in plain English, as opposed to just the title. Because even sometimes when people text me like, I need a defamation something something attorney, and I'm like, I don't even what do we call those attorneys? Like, I don't even know like who I know, and but anyway.
No, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to speak to your audience in a language that they understand. And lawyers, as a non-practicing lawyer myself, we speak legalese a lot of times. So, we start talking legal stuff and people's eyes glaze over. They have no idea what we're talking about. And so, and we think about this a lot in the context of search engine optimization, because,
Mhm.
search, all it is, people are typing questions into Google. And if your answers to those questions don't match, it's going to be very difficult for them to find you. And again, in the whatever example you want to use, there are certain forms, there are certain things that are, the issues that are on the minds of potential clients, and that's the stuff that you want to be communicating to them, whether it's search, whether it's social media. That's the stuff that helps it resonate with them, so that they're like, you stick in their mind when they see that message.
And that's why it's really important, like whoever you have on your marketing team, that they're thinking from that perspective. Because if you're thinking from the lawyer brain, you need to be thinking about like layperson's terms and how do they talk, because it's how they type and how they're doing the voice searches and things like that, like you're saying.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It's getting those feedback loops from your clients, and your potential clients. Like, how would you go about finding a lawyer like me? What do you think it is that I do? How would you describe the issues that I solve? That's the kind of stuff that you really want, whether it's, surveys, if you've got call transcripts, I mean, even email and practice management tools. Like, there's all of this great language that clients are using, and finding ways to get that out and published, I think, is a big part of the game.
so I've also heard you say like metrics are really important for lawyers to evaluate for their growth, and what's measured matters, and it's really important that we have data. Where does someone start, and how do we get better at this?
So the easiest thing that I tell lawyers is make sure that you're as part of your, call it intake or potential client nurturing, whatever you want to call it, make sure you're asking how they found you. Now, I know that people are listening to this and they're going to be like, oh, Gyi, there's all sorts of internet marketing attribution, and you can do last touch direct response attribution, and my CRM handles all that. No, it doesn't. And here's the I'll give you a quick example. If someone needs an immigration attorney, and but it's for a family member, and so they're doing research online, and they come and they see, maybe they watch a video that you did, or maybe they land on your website, but they don't immediately contact you. Maybe they write down your name, or they write down your phone number, and they give that to their family member. And the family member goes online and does a search, and maybe they search you by name now because they've got your name. And maybe they see an ad, or they see something else. Well, your last touch direct response attribution system, I know it's a mouthful right there, but all it means is it's giving credit to the last event that happened before the potential client contacted you. That's all that means. That's good. That is likely going to say whatever it is that they did. It's going to say they clicked the ad. So your PPC campaign gets credit. But truthfully, it wasn't your PPC campaign that generated the business. It was the video that you did that the relative watched. And so it's not that the attribution systems aren't important. They're valuable. And there are people that will do a linear conversion path, which just means they, search, click, call, hire, right? That your attribution system will catch that. But there's all sorts of qualitative attribution that doesn't happen. And more as people are using like messenger apps and other like social apps and things like that, and messaging systems, that attribution breaks because none of those, the way the technology, I won't get into all the technical stuff about it, but it doesn't pass the attribution information across. And so that's why it's so, I tell lawyers all the time, you've got to be, if you're going to manage things, you should be managing to, and again, I'm going to be a big asterisk here. This varies a lot from practice area to practice area. So, but in my experience, ideally you're closing the loop all the way from that initial contact all the way to a fee. If you can't, personal injury lawyers will say, well, look, it takes years for fees to matriculate. So, a lead I generate today, it's not going to matriculate for 3 years. It's going to make all of my numbers look weird. That's fine. Focus on something like open cases. If you open a file up, there's probably some value in it to you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have opened the file. Not always true, especially in contingency, personal injury. But a lot of situations, if you open that file up, so starting to tracking metrics like cost per acquisition of a client, total number of open cases over a time period, the amount of money and time that you spent, that's all that cost per acquisition means. Understanding those metrics is really, really important in terms of like those are kind of like down funnel metrics in terms of turning into business. If you're looking for leading indicators of success, it varies by platform. But I tell people, if you're going to do a lot of branding, there's a tool called Google Search Console. You just hook it up to your website, and assuming that your site is ranking for searches on your name or your firm name or permutations of that, you can see the number of times people are searching on your name in Search Console. So if you want something to measure if your brand awareness, that's a great proxy for that, because are you growing the number of people that are searching for your name over time? You can do the same thing with Google Ads. But those are some of the metrics that we tend to think about. There's all sorts of, you can get into all sorts of leading indicators. We use CallRail to track phone calls. And so we can do things like analysis of like phone calls by source. You can look at like first-time callers, because first-time callers tend to, if there's a bunch of different people like opposing counsel or clients calling your firm, those all get filtered out on first-time callers. But really for me, it's qualified consultations. And then if you can do that down to by sources with that, what they call qualitative attribution, where you're asking people how they found you. And people, before I went on this rant at the very beginning, one of the things that people always say is like, well, people get it wrong, Gyi. They get it wrong. They're going to say that they found me on the internet when actually they were referred and all that stuff. And that's true. That's going to happen. But in aggregate, you're going to start seeing things like, in your qualitative attribution, you'll see things like, I watched your YouTube videos, or I listened to your podcast, or I've been reading, your blog, or whatever it is. That's the kind of qualitative attribution that sometimes gets lost. And it's so, so important to have that in place in order to be able to measure to those metrics that matter.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. I think one of the things I remember learning in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Businesses program was about the sales funnel. And I remember being stubborn at first and thinking, oh, this doesn't apply. I can't believe how stupid I was. Like, this doesn't apply to me. I'm a lawyer. And then I was like, wait, no, it so does, And then I like created like my own little in-house, because I didn't have a CRM at the time. This was like a decade or something ago. And I was like, okay, how many calls do I have? And I use Vonage, and you can tell like if it's getting transferred to an assistant, or if it's like, or sort of like a new call, you can sort of tell, and sort of differentiate that. And then how many consults were scheduled, how many actual consults paid and happened, and then how many cases were hired or contracts were requested, cases hired. And then I put in other numbers like what are the different case types and how much money did we spend, how much staff we had. And
amazing. See, that's amazing. That's exactly what you're treating your firm, your practice like a business. Really, bravo.
Who would have thunk? But I mean, I sort of just did it sort of like, piecing that together. But now there's a lot more programs. Like, so I saw that you are an investor of Lawmatics or a supporter. And I actually use Lawmatics for the last couple of years. And I know I'm not using it to the fullest that I should. And we're changing our case management software, so hopefully it'll connect better. But what are some of the benefits of having Lawmatics or a CRM?
Oh, essential. I mean, honestly, we could go back to the question you asked me about most important things. Probably a CRM is on that short list. And the reason, when we say CRM, for those that aren't familiar with the term, we just mean client relationship management tool. And so, a lot of lawyers are familiar with like practice management tools that help them with scheduling orders and, talking, getting documents or automating documents. But a CRM really, to me, what it's about is it's helping nurture that relationship from that initial, contact all the way through to becoming a client. And then it switches over to practice management after they become a client. But this tool, the CRM, Lawmatics and many other CRMs that, handle these kind of issues, you can actually do what we're talking about. You can say, look, give me a report of all of the clients that have come in from my local services ads. You can also identify bottlenecks. So you can see things like, oh, people are, use the term funnel. People are falling out of my funnel at this stage. And, if you use, you can use Lawmatics to create different stages. And it's like, well, what's the problem? Like, is it because I'm not responding fast enough? Is there a pricing issue? Like so it gives you a lot of good data on what's going on with your firm. It helps you stay in touch, with former clients. So you can set up automations that will fire off an email and, wish someone a happy new year or a happy birthday if you have that in the CRM. So helps you stay top of mind with referral sources and former clients. And again, it's got a lot of the attribution systems in there as well. One of the big things that when Matt's one of the is the founder of Lawmatics, and when he first approached me about this idea, like that was the thing that I got so excited about, is to be able to quickly see, return on investment or cost per client, cost per acquisition by these various channels, so that you can actually make informed decisions about where you're spending your time and money in terms of, marketing and business development.
I mean, that's so true. The return on investment is where a lot of people flounder in marketing, because they're like, should I be running around to all these BNIs and network in action and Rotary clubs or whatever? Or should I be putting it on Google ads, or should I be doing TikTok videos, or should I be doing webinars on LinkedIn? And the answer, a lot of it comes down to having the data. And I think a lot of people don't have the data. So I feel like going and scrubbing whatever you have for data and trying to piece together some type of resemblance of some type of pattern to see what you're figuring out. Yeah, that's so important. Okay, I've got a couple like rapid fire-ish questions, but you feel free to do whatever you want with it. But like, I've seen you a lot on podcasts, and I was asking like, how many podcasts do you have? But I mean, you're a guest a lot, so I mean, I feel like that's becoming more popular right now. Maybe. Do you think there's value in a firm doing podcasts for marketing purposes?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I usually say this in a lot of different marketing vehicles. But the thing is, like, do you like doing it? It seems like a silly thing to even ask, but if you don't like doing it, it becomes a chore. Your personality doesn't come through. You end up not being consistent with it. And like, for a podcast to be effective, it's got to be interest, whatever it is the topic's going to be. You got to get people that actually want to listen to it. And so If you're not into it, if it just seems like a chore to you or it's not your personality, like don't force yourself to do it. And, marketing people like me, they're calling and emailing lawyers and be like, hey, let me help you start a podcast. And it's like, well, if you like doing it and you're going to be disciplined in doing it, I think that it can be a great vehicle. I'll say this, though. It can be a heavy lift because, you've got pre-production, you've got the actual production of it, and then post-production. So, if you're going to outsource some of that to a service, or maybe you're going to do it yourself, but there's a time commitment there. And so when I think about like investments in creating content, one of the things that and you mentioned this, but like being a guest. So say you serve a local community. I would go find the established podcasts in your local community. Maybe it's not, maybe there's some, they cover some topic that you're interested in. Maybe, maybe it's a nonprofit that, overlaps with the clientele that you serve. Maybe there's just some cause that you're passionate about. Maybe it's a local sports podcast, whatever it is, and go introduce yourself to the podcasters and try to become a guest. Maybe you've got like a legal bend on some sports issue or something, and you can be a guest, because now you're getting that awareness, and it's a great way to test into it to see if it's a medium that you actually enjoy doing. And, it doesn't, just cost you the time. They're going to handle all the production and all the distribution. All you have to do is just show up as the guest. And so I always say, if you're thinking about podcasting, start as a guest. The other thing that I always say that's kind of like overlaps this is record. If you got to like it, and you got to practice, because doesn't come naturally right away. But record yourself once, maybe you do it once a month. You do 1 hour recording a month, answering frequently asked questions, talking about news items that about your practice, talking about yourself, and what's going on at your practice, stuff like that. Of course, be mindful of your ethical obligations. You're not giving advice. You're not blowing client confidences. But record those and then chop them up, or have somebody else chop them up into what they call short form social videos before you get into and you can turn that into a podcast too, by the way, because, podcast is just audio of that. But if you take that 1 hour recording, you can give yourself like real expertise type short form video and audio content that you can use all over the place. You can use it on Facebook. You can use it on LinkedIn. You can use it on YouTube. I think that's what right now, like the lawyers that are really leaning into that and investing in, essentially they're joining the creator economy, for lack of a better, buzzword. But they're attracting an audience, and people want to consume that information. And especially, if they're interesting, or they're insightful, or maybe they're neither of those things, but they have a really good insight on something that's subject matter expertise, or maybe they're a leader in their local community. That's the stuff that people gravitate towards, and people like it. And that's the thing I always tell people: well, how can you tell if this is working? Well, are people subscribing? Are your subscriber numbers going up? Are people, reacting to what you're publishing on social media? Are they commenting in it? Are they sharing it? And so as you start to see those, it gives you a sense of like, am I moving in the right direction? But I'm so empathetic to lawyers, because, a marketing person will say something like, you got to blog, or you got to do a podcast, or you got to do short form video, like I just said. And they do it, but they're not thinking about their audience and the feedback loop, and like whether or not people actually like to consume it. And then they end up being like, am I wasting my time? And so again, I think it's just, it's all of these things together, making sure you've got some metrics in there to measure, leading indicators of success, whether it's engagement, subscribers. I don't get so big on followers. And I'll also tell folks too that are listening, stay away from the fake amplification. People will sell you followers. They'll sell you positive reviews. They'll sell you all this stuff. And the problem with, and unfortunately, it makes you look better. Now, in my view, probably runs afoul of ABA Model Rule 7.1 on false and misleading marketing. But even if you're not worried about the ethics issues, when people realize that you're doing that, all of your authenticity is gone once they see that you've done that. Because if you're willing to lie and cheat about that, you're willing to lie and cheat about anything. And so the trust is eroded. So I would avoid that kind of stuff.
I agree. Okay. This is something I just discovered. We were putting a lot of our videos live under YouTube, because we had scheduled them with StreamYard. But then I realized when you go to YouTube, you can't see them as easily because it's not under video. And then I'm just like, oh, darn, like the average person's not like going to see how many cool videos we've done. So, do you have like an opinion on that? Because I'm like, should I make my people like move all the videos from live and like put them back on regular? Because it's not an easy move. You have to like download to upload. But I don't know if
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at to give you a specific response, but I think in general for listeners, I think the thing that I would consider is, how are these videos being surfaced? Are they showing, like, so for YouTube, for example, if you've been following along with what Google's been talking about this last year, they want to surface what they call it hidden gems, or they've got this perspectives filter. They own YouTube. And so if you want to show up in searches for people searching for legal issues that you're talking about, I'd be putting them on YouTube. And the trick is to make sure that they're indexable and crawlable by YouTube, or by Google, which essentially they've got to be a public video on YouTube. Now, live streaming is great too. To me, though, the real value of live streaming is that you can engage with the audience. And so until you've actually you've got people showing up to the live stream, if you're just getting started, I would say record them. You've got more editing control, and live. If you're doing it live, it's live, so you don't have any editing control. So I would start with recording, get them published, get them distributed, start getting feedback. Ask people. Start with the people that that already know, like, and trust you. Hey, what do you think of this video? What do you think about this topic? Put it out there and then start iterating from there. But to me, the big thing is, it's like we talk about, like, Google tells us just create great content and everything else figures itself out, but that's not really true. Distribution matters a lot. Like, I'll give you another example. And I was a late user of TikTok, and I was kind of skeptical. I know there's issues with TikTok, and there's all sorts of scary things about it. However, I've done tests where I'll take one video, same video, post it on Instagram, post it on Facebook, and post it on TikTok. I'll get a couple hundred views on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll get thousands on TikTok. Now, are those real numbers? I don't know, but in terms of like the platform generating awareness and reach, TikTok seems to be providing more reach just out of the box.
Yeah, I remember asking my AdWords SEO guy and about TikTok like a few years ago, and he was like, "No, just stick to 1 minute YouTube videos or something." And I mean, I really wish I wouldn't have listened to him, because, I mean, if I would have done it during the pandemic, I probably would have had a lot more fun. But we eventually started doing it. But it does take, I mean, like everything takes consistency, and you have to enjoy it. But I think that's true. Like, I think there's even apps out there now where you can sort of spice and dice the content you've done and sort of into different formats, or use the TikTok videos and turn them into reels, and all this stuff, like just maximizing the material that you've created. That's really what we've got to do, because time is so limited, and we're supposed to be lawyers in our spare time too.
Exactly. No, that's right, though. You record once and then you distribute many times. And I'll give folks that are listening another tool tip. There's this Descript app, Descript. I think I spelled that
Oh
right.
yeah.
Descript. It is, to me, the most remarkable video editing software. You can add all the, and there's a bunch of that do this. This just happens to be the one that I like, but add subtitles, create audiograms. You can do all sorts of like editing. You can add jiffies and images and bylines. And so if you're a little overwhelmed by the production, or if you're outsourcing your production to someone that's like, super expensive, that might be a way to do it more efficiently. But again, there's another thing I always tell, that's an interesting point that always comes up, is should I do this myself or should I outsource it? And again, it comes down to what's the value of your time. If you're a new lawyer and you don't have a lot of clients and you don't have a lot of fees, then maybe you do more of this yourself. Spend a weekend, learn how to use Descript. As you start to, reallocate your time, maybe your time's best spent serving clients, maybe your time's best spent recording videos, whatever it is, then you can start to decide if you want to either hire somebody or outsource it. But that's another question that comes up all the time, is like, how should I decide whether I should be doing this or not? And it really comes down to understanding what's the most valuable use of your time.
So, completely agree. On LinkedIn, I was watching your panel last year, and I was like making all the edits and telling my marketing team, like, while I was listening. What are some of, like, what's one or two tips you think people would be a quick, return on your investment if you were to go make that change on your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah. So the first thing, the headline is the key. And as you already articulated, you got to change it from, personal injury attorney to helping survivors of serious car crashes, that kind of switch the headline, because the headline is really what shows up under your name, even when they're not looking at your profile, like if they're looking at a comment. The second thing that I would tell you is, especially if you're brand new to it, invest in other people's content. So go engage with other people's content, comment on it, react to it, build, think about it more like a networking tool than a, social broadcasting tool. And then when you get to the stage of like when you actually want to publish, there are all sorts, you can go look up like LinkedIn algorithm issues, but LinkedIn's algorithm favors a couple of things. The first is, like all the platforms, it favors keeping users on site. And what that means is that if you create a post on LinkedIn that links out, say you just like share through a sharing tool, and it's got the, it pulls the open graph data, and it populates the title and the link. Because that link is directing people to leave LinkedIn's less inclined, their algorithms are less inclined to share it or to show it in people's feeds. So you'll see people game this. They'll put like a link in the comment section. LinkedIn has been, even now you'll probably see people saying, no, that's not right anymore. Their algorithms change, and it is evolving, and it's an algorithm, so it's constantly changing. But for myself, what I can tell you I've found worked really, really well is an image. So use an image and then treat LinkedIn more like a blog post versus like trying to send people somewhere else. And then, so again, if you're, the same thing you'd think about a blog post, what is some information that you could share that might be valuable to your audience? Write a post, add an image, and then don't put a link out at all. And that seems counterintuitive because you're like, well, I want to drive people back to my website to contact me. Well, the thing is, people can figure it out. They can contact you right from your profile. They'll click through from the profile. They can message you. And so those are a couple quick things. But I like the short form video on LinkedIn. I like text posting on LinkedIn. I like images. In fact, I probably, if you ask me, I probably invest more time in, LinkedIn than anything else. Now, again, I have a B2B business, right? Like I'm selling to lawyers. If you're but for lawyers, if you're B2B, it's like a no brainer. But if you're B2C, it's a great place to nurture referral relationships, to meet other professionals. It might not be like a direct to consumer type of thing as much, but professional networking online, LinkedIn's the place to be.
I agree, and we help businesses and investors. So I have to work on my LinkedIn as well, and so I was really key on listening to everything you had said. So the ABA Tech Show is just not too long from now, and you're going to be speaking on Google business profiles, optimizing your business profile, and also how to ethically, effectively use generative AI in client communications and beyond. So I'll definitely want to attend both of those as long as it doesn't conflict with whatever I'm speaking at. But I have a little question about AI and videos, sort of tying to the content. Okay, I've been hearing about all these programs where about like you can just get an avatar, you can make an avatar of yourself, and then you give it a script and it makes a video, voila. But I'm just like, are people going to be really engaged in that as much as like a human, or like, I'm curious, like, is the jury still out on whether people are receptive on that? And is the tech good enough? I don't know.
Right. Great questions. Love these questions. So here's my answer. If it can pass the Turing test, if I can't tell, if you're an AI avatar and I can't tell the difference, I think I'm talking to Ruby, then great. That's amazing.
Are you?
Right. Yeah, right. Great. But here's the risk. Once I realize that I'm talking to the AI, or once I realize that the AI is posting on LinkedIn, or once I realize that the AI is generating blog posts or emails or whatever it is, same thing we talked about with the fake followers. People don't like it. They don't want to deal with the AI. And so I'm like this. I'm like, if you're inclined to do these things, tell them, hey, this isn't, it's so the AI avatars, they can be amazing for certain things. Maybe you want to do some kind of onboarding, or maybe you want to teach a client about a deposition or something. And you want your AI to read some transcript and just be you. Tell them, hey, I'm Ruby's bot, and I'm going to be talking to you today about depositions, but don't try to make it look like it's you. And in fact, even the good ones today, most of the context that I would think to use the avatar AI, I'd probably rather just record a video of myself doing it for real and then give that to the client than than have the AI do it. So, people can be asking me about this AI stuff. I'm speaking about it at a tech show. My answer is that if you can find ways to deploy AI in ways that are seamless, where it's an assistive technology, if it's helping you write a blog post, but you're actually reviewing it and putting your own voice on it, if it's helping you, do a bunch of other publishing types of things, maybe it's helping you write emails, maybe it's helping you, some of them are designed specific, not Chat GPT, but maybe maybe you're using Co-Counsel or something to do research. They can be helpful, but they're not a replacement for you. And especially in the communication context, I mean, look, if you're helping people that are in some of their most vulnerable times of their life, do you think that you're going to build trust with this AI thing just talking to them? No.
No, I mean, even yesterday we were bracing for a freeze, and these potential clients drove like 40 minutes to my office to see me in person. And I was like, we have phone, we have Zoom, we have phone, we have Zoom. You do not have to like embrace the sleet, potential snow, to come see me. But it's about trust, and it's about, especially if people have humanitarian cases or been burned or traumatized before by something else. No, I get you. I think I agree with you.
It depends, right? I mean, look, this is the other thing I always say, because we work with a lot of law firms that do volume-based practices, soft tissue car injury type stuff, and they've got to feed the machine, and they're constantly looking for ways to automate it. And if their clients, maybe they have a case manager and some support staff. And if their clients are giving them, they've got feedback loops in place. So, hey, are we answering your calls? Are we keeping you informed? Do you feel like we care about you? If the clients are okay with it, then I think great. But gosh, what a competitive advantage for the lawyers that are going to lean in to the client service, to the empathy, to the, caring about clients, because in the future, if the AI gets better, the thing that the AI still seems not to be able to do very well is all that human stuff. And so the more that makes that aspect of you as a lawyer more valuable, even in the world of AI. And again, I think a lot of these lawyers we're already seeing it, right? We saw it with chatbots. We're seeing it with some of the other stuff. If you lose authenticity, if your client feels like they're another number, in a lot of practice contexts, that's enough of them reason to be like, maybe I should find another lawyer, or to go leave you a negative review, or, say something nasty about you. And so you just got to be really mindful about how you deploy this stuff. And I'm pro technology, but there's a time and a place for everything. And so it's navigating that, especially in these emerging technologies. There's a lot of unknown, uncharted territory right now. So, tread carefully.
All right, I agree. So we're coming to the close, and we like to ask all of our guests, what's your superpower and how do you think you obtained it?
My superpower, we talk about this a lot on my team. I talk about my personal life, but my brain, for however it's wired, like I'm like it's like designed to like see problem solving stuff. And that's the best way. It's not a great articulation, but like I have I'm not going to explain it well, but I have this good sense of like how different forces act on each other. And like, when when I'm zooming out, I'm really good at that. Now, you didn't ask me this, but my worst powers, I really need to be more organized. I'm the type of person that's got like a million things going on. I got 500 tabs open on my computer. I'm reading 5 books at the same time and not finishing them. And so I don't know. Sometimes it sounds like a superpower, and sometimes it sounds like a huge liability.
Well, I mean, it's good for us to know what our strengths are and lean in on that, and then know what our weaknesses are, I guess you could say, and then try to leverage that somehow too. But I'm like you as well. Like if my computer has to restart, I'm like, no. I mean, unless I can like redo all the tabs again, I'm like, I won't remember what I was trying to remember. And the same about the books too. And so how can people find you, and all, like, any other last minute thoughts or reflections as we're closing out? But it's been great having you.
No, thanks so much for having me. People can feel free to go to AttorneySync, AttorneySync.com. There's information about me there. I'm most active on LinkedIn, as we talked about. If you just start typing Gyi Tsakalakis, I'll probably come up. There's not a lot of people that spelling of a name. And I would remind folks this year, I think to me, if you're thinking marketing, just remember authenticity, find a way to get your authentic message out. Short form video content right now, that's like the hot, shiny object out there. And I think that don't sacrifice your authenticity in this age of AI. I think that's going to be more and more valuable as people start to filter through the noise.
Oh, that's really great. I've been taking notes because I'm like going to put some of this in my book and also just make sure we're implementing it in my businesses. But no, so great. As always. And if I'm just going to say that if you see Gyi at the ABA Tech Show, probably go up to him or follow him or watch one of his panels, because he was the co-chair. He knows everybody there and he knows his stuff.
Come to Tech Show.
Just come to Tech Show. You can come talk to me too, and I'll connect you with whoever I know as well. It's a great program. Well, thank you everyone for listening and joining us on this insightful journey today. Your time and engagement means the world to us. And if you join this episode and want to continue the conversation, connect with us on Power Up Your Practice Facebook group, and we'll keep powering on. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. Join us next week for another episode where we'll continue to explore insightful strategies for success. Power Up Your Practice with us. See you next time.